also requested for Surah Al-Fatiha for all marhumeen and marhumat of the attendees here, especially the shuhada of the atrocities and all our late ulamas. Fatiha. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين شفيع المذنبين رحمة للعالمين مولانا وسيدنا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرض أرواحنا له الفداء ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد فقد قال أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب اللهم صل في خطبته المعروفة بخطبة الحمام أو الخطبة المتقين في فضائل المتقين: صبروا أياما قصيرة أعقبتهم راحة طويلة، تجارة مربحة يسرها لهم ربهم، أرادتهم الدنيا ولم يريدوها ففدوا أنفسهم منها. Respected elders, brothers, sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all, accept our azadari, bless this majlis inshallah, the conveners of the majlis inshallah. May He bless their marhumeen, especially their efforts within the community and for the religion. May they be accepted. May He grant them barakat, rizq, ma'navi, maddi, both types of rizq inshallah. Brothers and sisters, today I wanted to talk to you about something very special. And I wanted to take it from one of the khutbahs of the Aimma, the khutbah of Hammam, which is in Nahjul Balagha. This is khutbah number 193. If I give you a very, very quick background about this khutbah. In the life of Amir al-Mu'mineen, he had a number of companions. Some of them we know well, some of them we know not so well. One of them who we know not so well is this person called Hammam. Hammam actually, now we're not sure, is it his name or is it his title? Most likely it's his title. Hammam means someone who is very much in grief, coming from Ham. Ha do cheshm, mim, mushaddad, Ham. Hammam means someone very much in grief, like we say, Ham o gham. You've heard that, right? Ham o gham. Someone very much in grief. Why was he so much in grief? Well, he had this kind of personality. He was very worried. He was very much on edge because of his position with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the muttaqeen, usually they are like this. They're not internally at peace. They're on edge. They're fearful for their future. How will they appear before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What jawab will they give to the sawal of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How will they account for what they have done in the world? This is usually the state of muttaqeen. Woe be to the person who says, Alhamdulillah, I've done enough, Allah is happy with me. I don't know how people can say that. Imams never used to say that. So this person comes to Amir al-Mu'mineen and says, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, sif liyal muttaqeen. Oh Imam, tell me about the muttaqeen. Describe them to me. كَأَنَّهُ أَنظُرَ إِلَيْهِمْ. As if I can see them. Like go into so much detail and be so graphic about these muttaqeen. Like paint me a picture in my mind. In my mind it's like as if I see them. So Imam, he goes through and he recounts and he enumerates all of these different sifat of the muttaqeen. Some scholars, this is very interesting, some scholars have counted, and if you count them in a particular manner, there are 110 sifat of the muttaqeen that Amirul Mu'mineen narrates. Why is 110 significant? It's the rumuz. When you make it into numericals in Arabic, it's Ali, the name Ali. Salawat. So he goes into a lot of depth about these muttaqeen, and he comes onto one of the sifat of the muttaqeen, and this is what he says: Sab'ru ayyaman qasira. Muttaqeen are those people, they are willing to have sabr, ayyaman qasira, for a short number of days. Waqt mahdood, a short period of time they are willing to have sabr. Why? أَعْقَبَتْهُمْ رَاحَةً طَوِيلًا. After these short number of days of sabr, they are expecting a very long period of comfort and luxury. They are willing to sacrifice in a short time for a long time gain. أَعْقَبَتْهُمْ رَاحَةً طَوِيلًا تِجَارَةٌ مُرْبِحَةٌ. This is a very beneficial transaction for them. It's a very profitable transaction. So when what we say in Gujarati, vepari, when a businessman, he wants to do trade, he knows that in the beginning it's going to be difficult. A lot of outgoings, a lot of effort, a lot of unease, uncertainty, but then he knows that inshallah this will become successful and I will get a lot of profit afterwards. A student in university, they go to university, they know, okay, for some years we have to grind it out, life's going to be a bit tough, accommodation is not exactly that we want, our travel, our commuting is not exactly the way we want it, we have to go, for example, in different range and difficulties, but at the end we have something at the end of it, like a career, for example. Well, actually these days even that is not guaranteed, but that's what they hope and that's what they think. Imam says muttaqeen look at the world in this way. They look at it as sabr ayyaman kasira, sabr for a short time, aqabathum rahatan tawila tijaratun murbiha. This is a very good deal they're doing with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Aradathum ad-dunya. The world is seeking them. Walam yuriduha. Muttaqeen have no interest in the world. They reject it. أرادتهم الدنيا ولم يريدوها أسرتهم ففدوا أنفسهم منها. The world tried to make these muttaqeen asir khud, its prisoner. It tried to grab them and hold them and imprison them. But they gave a ransom and they escaped from it. What is the ransom they gave? How much money will it take to pay off the world? What's the price of the world? What will the world accept? No? What do you think? What do they pay to get rid of this Asiri of the world? Hopefully before death. They give their jaan. They give themselves. They say, no, I'm sacrificing everything. I don't want anything. So then what will the world take from you if you say, I don't want anything worldly. I don't want dunya ki izzat o abru o mal o dolat o shohrat o qudrat. I don't want these things. So then what will the world take from you? It doesn't have anything left to take from you. Because you've already done qurban of your jaan and you've escaped from the world. Those who don't do qurban of their jaan and their selves and their lives and their worldly existence, well, the world is very much easy to then pounce on you and take you. Someone who has a rooted love for money, well, the world will come from that angle and take you. Someone who has rooted love for izzat and abru in a wrong sense. Of course, every mu'min is aziz and he has izzat in front of Allah. But in front of people, no. We don't go for izzat in front of people necessarily. Then the world will take you from that angle. If you are, for example, attached to your family in a wrong way, of course we are all attached to our families in a good way, but what about if your family is taking you on the wrong path? Again, the world will take you from that angle. So they are willing to do qurban of their jaan and their whole selves to escape from this world. Mawla says, Sab'ru. They have patience or perseverance. These are both okay. When we translate sabr, sometimes it can mean patience, sometimes it can mean perseverance. They have sabr, and that is their strength in order to battle and fight against the world and dunya. Sabr is very important. When we list the list of virtues, there's a whole science of akhlaq. The ulama of akhlaq, when they list the virtues in Islam, sabr is right up there. For example, they say the undoubted virtue in Islam is justice. This is number one. That is the base. Justice is number one virtue for various reasons. We don't have time right now to discuss why, but justice goes at number one, followed by a number of things. For example, humility is up there. Amanatdari, safekeeping and safeguarding people's trusts is there. Sidq, truth is there. Amongst them is sabr. What is sabr? How do we get sabr? We have this one narration from the Holy Prophet, narrated by the first Imam and then Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salatu wassalam. This is narrated by both Shia and Sunni sects, maybe with different chains of narration, but the text is the same. Patience to faith is like the head for a body. There can be no body without a head and no faith without patience. Someone who doesn't have patience, they cannot be faithful. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. The reward of sabr. Let me just quickly narrate to you a couple of things regarding the reward of sabr. Hopefully this makes us more motivated to gain sabr and work on our sabr. There are a few things in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says there's a reward for it. And there are some things which He says there is a reward for it, but it cannot be counted. It is so much, it is to such an extent that no one can count it. Only Allah knows how much it is. One of them is sabr. قُلْ يَا عِبَادِ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اتَّقُوا رَبَّكُمْ لِلَّذِينَ أَحْسَنُوا فِي هَذِهِ الدُّنْيَا حَسَنًا. Allah declares, my servants who have faith, be wary of your Lord, for those who do good in this world will be a good reward. And Allah's earth is vast. إِنَّمَا يُوَفَّى الصَّابِرُونَ أَجْرَهُمْ بِغَيْرِ حِسَابٍ. Surely the people of Sabr will be paid in full without any hisab. There's no end. There's very difficult to put any limit on the reward of sabr. In another hadith, we read really something very special. The maqam of shuhada. How amazing is the maqam of shuhada? We have shuhada throughout history. Shuhada of Karbala, of course, are first and foremost. We have shuhada of different eras, different places. We have shuhada, for example, in Inqilab of Iran, for example, we would count them as shuhada. Shuhada who are currently defending our rozas and harams in, for example, Sham, they are shuhada. They've died. Many of them have died. In fact, I've seen the videos on YouTube in Iran when they bring the bodies of the shuhada back. And there are proper baqaida majlises and everything done for them. And nohas are written for them actually. So these are shuhada, these are people dying all the time. They have an amazing martaba in front of Allah. They have an amazing position. Their sins are forgiven, except for hukukun nas, or hukukullah is forgiven for them. They are in the Rabbihim yurzakun. They are with their Lord being sustained. Amazing descriptions. This hadith says, on the Day of Judgment, the shuhada will be gathered. But before they get to heaven, they'll see there's another group going to heaven before them. And they will say, who are these people going to heaven even before the martyrs? They will be told, these are the sabirun, those with sabr. Why is this? See, a martyr, he gave his life once. It's an amazing achievement. It's an amazing thing that he did, no doubt. But he gave his life once. Someone with sabr, it's not just a one-off activity. It's a virtue in yourself. It's like a part of you. It's part of your personality. It's part of your makeup. It's part of your nature. It's not just once. It's something that is all the time. So we should not be surprised, like for example, if there's a shaheed. Shaheed are usually men. They can be women as well, but usually, by and large, they are men. A man is shaheed. His wife and child go into heaven before him. It should not be a surprise. Because he has died, he has got the maqam of shahadat. His wife and child have the maqam of sabr. They have to withstand so much. They have to live without him, they have to mourn him, they have to survive him, they have to carry on, they have to be strong. So sometimes these discussions, they don't make sense. When you look at it from this point of view, someone may say, for example, why are men given this privilege and why not women? But we don't look at it like that. Islam doesn't look at it like that. Islam says, well, your maqam can be much higher than a shaheed. Shaheed is extremely good. But a sabir or sabira, child, mother, children, Baz Mandagan, the survivors of the shaheed, they can have a much higher ajr in front of Allah and position in front of Allah. Of course, to be shaheed and sabir is the best result of them all. And this is what we see, for example, in the shuhada of Karbala. We see these two things. They were sabirun and they were also shuhada. They had sabr and they also had the quality of shahadat. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala. One more hadith for your reflection. This is very, very interesting. This is maybe something that we come across a lot in our time, unfortunately, because of various issues. I don't want to go into too much detail on this matter regarding like examples, but inshallah you in your own minds will be able to understand. Because of various issues, because of various people we have to interact with, because of sometimes community members, because sometimes of community politics, because sometimes of family issues, extended family issues, this comes up. We find ourselves in different gatherings, different circles, people with different kinds of values, different kinds of principles in their lives. These things come up. This is the hadith from the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. A time will soon come to people. They would not reach power except by killing people and through arrogance. Could be many types of power. Could be heads of state, which we are seeing in the world today. It's disgusting, some of the heads of state that we see. It's disgusting, really. How they are surviving, Allah knows. Could be heads of other institutions. Could be heads of a family. Could be heads of a charity. Could be heads of many things. But it seems that a time will come, if the time has not come already, it will come, where people through their arrogance will ascend to positions of leadership. The hadith continues. You cannot become rich, a time will come, you cannot become rich except by anger. Or by usurping. Either ghadab or ghasb. Ghadab is anger, ghasb is usurping. Either you have to steal from someone, or you have to dominate someone, or you have to be a dictator on someone in order to be so-called successful and rich. And you will not be loved except if you give up religion and follow your desires. Isn't it very unfashionable today to talk about religion in certain circles? Sometimes we feel ashamed of our own faith. How do I say this? How do I treat someone like this? Baba, it's your religion. It's It's your religion. Have some pride, have some honor. Have some pride in your religion. So a person will not be able to be successful unless he does these things. The hadith continues, whoever witnesses that time and remains patient in poverty. It could be that you are subject to poverty and difficulties. Could be that your life doesn't go the way you want it to. What does Amir al-Mu'mineen say? Sab'ru ayyaman kasira. They are willing to have sabr for those few days in the world. They're not going to give up their principles and values. They're not going to give up their deen. It's okay. Sometimes poverty will come, sometimes sakhti will come, difficulties will come. It's alright. Not such a big deal. We don't have to do wawayla about it all the time. Imams went through much more difficult times than what we are going through. Whoever remains patient in poverty and is patient with disrespect instead of being honored. Sometimes we are disrespected. We don't feel like we can honestly represent our faith. Here I'm not even talking about the outside world, I'm talking about within mu'mineen. There's ridicule, there's taunting, lots of things are going on. Maybe we've lost some of those basic values and fundamental beliefs of our faith. Whoever can remain patient in this time, Allah will give such patient people the reward of 50 Siddiqeen. Siddiqeen are those people who were very much close to the Holy Prophet, accepted Islam, and they were very truthful. If we have sabr during this time, we can achieve this reward, inshallah. And sometimes really it is a sawal of sabr, it's a question of sabr. With certain people at certain times, really we have to be sabir, and Allah will reward us for that, inshallah. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Now, let us go into a little bit more depth from a spiritual angle. That was from a riwayati and ayati angle, Quran and Hadith angle. Now we'll go into a spiritual angle. What does our spiritual sciences, irfan, akhlaq say about these kinds of things? This is very interesting. The way one scholar has summarized it is like this. He says, look, think of yourself and your heart as a battleground. There's a battle raging in your heart all the time. There are two armies facing each other. On one side you have the army of what we would call passions, desires, greed, shahwat. On one side. On the other side you have the army of resistance. One side, shahwat side, is saying, indulge in whatever you want. Go wherever you want, meet whoever you want, you have a desire, fulfill it any way you want, be happy. Who is anyone to tell you otherwise? As long as you are happy, this is the main thing. This is one side. On the other hand, you have the army of resistance. Army of resistance is saying, no, instant gratification is not good for you. Have sabr, think about it, look at your long term, look at your akhirat, look at other things, they are more important. So these are the two armies that are raging. When the army of resistance becomes successful, that is when a person says, I have had sabr. When the army of resistance becomes successful upon the army of desire and passion and greed, that is when a person says, I am practicing sabr. This is from a spiritual angle. So sabr is now more wide. The concept of sabr now, we've broadened it. Now what we are saying is actually sabr not just applies to when people interact and worldly interactions. It also applies to people's hearts and souls and minds. This is very, very important to understand. That the sabr that we are talking about within akhlaq and spirituality is the sabr that you can have to resist sin, temptation, gunah, shahwat, desire, passion. This is very, very special type of sabr now. Okay? Let's go into it in a bit more detail. So when this battle is raging between these two forces, this is what we know in Islamic terms as Jihad Akbar. Jihad Akbar. The greater jihad. The jihad of a person against himself, to keep himself on the straight path, to always observe Sirat-e-Mustaqim, to always observe the path of Amirul Mu'mineen and Ahlul Bayt. Salawat. Now, unfortunately, what happens is we get into a few bad habits in our lives, in our lifestyles. We, alhamdulillah, we tend to do something good, but it has a bad consequence. The good thing that we do is we say, look, I will not do anything haram. Okay? I know the line between halal and haram. I'll make sure my activities are halal. My spending is halal. My purchasing is halal. My lifestyle is halal. I won't do anything haram. I know the line. Okay? But Allah has given me. So I will buy very lavish things. It's not haram. I will buy extremely luxurious things. It's not haram. I will lead a life of plenty. Maybe it's not haram. Okay? Someone can justify these things. I have got, I'm giving khums, I'm giving whatever I'm giving, and I will spend in the way that I want. Who can stop me? I've earned this money through halal rizq, through halal means, I will spend in a halal way. Ulama of akhlaq say, no. This, you are walking the fine line and you could tip at any point. Why? Sometimes it's not good enough just to say, I will do the halal bare minimum. Because a time will come, now that you have spent lavishly, you are in a lifestyle, you are living like a king, for example. Now a time comes in your life, Islam demands a sacrifice from you. Islam wants you to do something extra. Community needs you. Islam needs you. Children of our community need you. Projects need you. Now what will you say? You'll say, no, it's very difficult for me, you know. On Tuesdays I have my friends gatherings. On Wednesdays I have restaurant. On Thursday I do this. On Friday I do this. It's not haram. Gather with friends, go to a restaurant. Inshallah, it's not haram. But when Islam needs you, you're not there. When community needs you, you're not there. A calamity takes place. We are asked to give from ourselves. Could be money, could be time, could be effort, could be expertise. We say, no, it's very difficult. I'm alright where I am, thank you very much. I'm not doing anything haram. It's not good enough. Imagine if the Shuhada Karbala had that attitude. Imagine if they said that. Imagine if they said, look, you know what, nothing to do with me, good luck. I don't know who Yazid is. I know Imam Hussein is a nice person, but I don't want to get involved, thank you very much. And there were people like this. And Imam gives them a very stern warning. It's not good enough that we can just say, I'll do halal and haram and not do anything else. So there are three reasons why I will say that this is not good enough. Number one, it takes a lot of energy. Imagine you work so much, you earn, mashallah, a lot. Well, what time are you left with then? Honestly speaking, hand on heart, what time are we left with? All of our time and energy goes into earning. What time are we left with? And in fact, you know, from a psychological point of view, now this wasn't in my plans to speak about this, but I just read the article this morning, so I'll comment on it. From a psychological point of view, even it doesn't make sense. You know, right now, there are a number of companies in Europe and UK, they are all considering and debating whether they should change their policy to give their staff 4-day weeks and not 5-day weeks, but they will pay them for 5 days. They'll give 4 days of work, but they'll pay them for 5 days. We tend to give 6 days and pay for 5 days. You know, that's the way our mentality works. Rinse them as much as we can, get the most out of them. What they're saying is, actually this is counterproductive. They're saying it's completely counterproductive. When they trialed a 4-day week, paying for 5, they said people were happier, more productive, more loyal. Our sales and figures went up, our profits enhanced, our stress and sickness went down. It was more successful for us paying people, keeping them happy, rather than just working them to the bone. Not many people will do this. More people will dismiss this. But anyway, this is what the research is showing. Coming back to the topic, if you work all days of the week, all hours of the day, I don't know if that's the right thing to do. I can't think it's making anyone happy to do that. Deep happiness. Deep happiness. There's a very famous hadith, it's not coming to me right now, the Arabic is not coming to me, but it's something like this. From Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wassalam. Okay, it's something like this, I am surprised at the stingy person. I am surprised at the stingy person who gathers his wealth. He lives in the world like a faqir. But in the akhirat, he has to give hisab like an amir. He's got the money, so Allah will ask him, what did you do with this money? Because he's got it. It's not that he doesn't have it, he's got it, but he himself lives like a faqir. Na dunya, na akhirat. He doesn't get the world, he doesn't get the akhirat. In the world, he lives like a stupid person. In the akhirat, he has to give hisab for things that he didn't even use, but he kept it, he hoarded it. What's the point? Anyway, so number one, it takes a lot of energy. Number two, it's depriving you of a lot of opportunities that you could otherwise have had. Many people, when they get to a certain age, they think, oh my God, why did I spend so much time working in these things? I could have done so much more with my life. Sometimes it's too late. Those days have gone, those times have gone. You're past a certain age, difficult to change now. It's too late. So better wake up before that happens. But perhaps most importantly, especially for our younger generation, those of us who are parents, we should think about this. Children in the room, sorry about this. Maybe your life is going to get more difficult after I say this. What happens is, when we give our children everything, I want this here, I want that here, take this, take that, they become weak. They become spiritually, morally weak. So when the time comes that difficulty comes upon them, what does Imam Hussain alayhi salam say? فَإِذَا مُحِّسُوا بِالْبَلَاءِ قَلَّتْ دَيَّانُونَ. When some people who are very much attached to the world become embroiled in difficulty, when bala comes upon them, قَلَّتْ دَيَّانُونَ. The deendar log will reduce significantly. People are okay, people are religious, as long as their life is comfortable. As long as life is comfortable, I'm fine. I'll pray, I'll go mosque, I'll be a very nice person. Difficulty comes upon me, that's when I'm tested. Religious people become very few. Imam Hussein's words on the day of Ashura. So, by giving so much, I'm not saying don't give, yeah? I'm not saying be overly strict as well. Hadith also says that a person who is too strict on his or her family members is also not going to get closer to Allah. There has to be a line. There has to be a good line. And a mu'min, like I've said again and again, in Essex Jamaat, while I was here, again and again I emphasize this point, a mu'min has a policy for everything. He has a policy, he understands, he knows. He says, look, here's my boundary. These things I can justify. These things I'm sorry, I can't justify. He has a policy, a well thought out Islamic based policy. So, not to be too strict, not to deprive the haqq of people, not to also be too much luxurious and too much granting everything in order to make a person weak. That also does not make sense. We have to be very careful. May Allah give us tawfiq, inshallah. Now, there are 3 types of sabr. There are many types of sabr. Ulama have taken sabr and they have categorized it in a number of different ways. Come on, bhai, how am I doing with time? What time do I finish? Open invitation.
6 p.m.
6 p.m. Chalo, I'll finish this next categorization and then we'll try and conclude, inshallah. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Ulama have taken the concept of sabr. They have looked at it in different angles and in different ways, and they've come up with multiple types of categorization from different angles. I'll only give you one categorization from one angle. This is the most common one. When we take sabr, it is usually put into 3 categories. Number 1, sabr anil ma'siyah. To have perseverance not to sin. To have perseverance not to sin. So, a sin, an opportunity for sin, gunaah becomes apparent. You remind yourself of all your religious teachings and your principles and your values, and you say, no, I'm not going to engage in that. That is sabr anil ma'siyah. Very important. Is it wajib? It could be wajib. If you are confronted with a haram thing, sabr at that moment becomes wajib. If it's makruh in front of you and you do sabr, that sabr is mustahab. So there are different ways of looking at that. But how do we get to this position? Well, we should be knowing like our fiqh and our Islamic laws properly. There's no harm in you referring to, for example, the tawzihul masail of your marja. May Allah protect all of our maraji, grant them long lives. There's no harm in taking that tawzih, refresh yourself, read a section a day, few days, read a bit. Keep yourself refreshed so you know what is right and wrong. You know these small things that crop up day to day, what to do in each situation. Number 2, sabr ala ta'ah. Persevering upon obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sometimes we have certain acts that we do. Alhamdulillah, it's very good. We will recite namaz-e-shab and then we'll leave it for a few days. We'll take a book, we'll read it, and then it stays on the side for God knows how long. We'll hear in a majlis or a lecture good zikr, we'll start doing that zikr, a few days later we've forgotten. What is really important in spirituality is that you sustain continuously your practice. Even if it's something very small. Even if you say every day I'm going to recite salawat at this particular time, keep reciting it every day, even if it's 1 salawat. Keep on doing it. Because that will slowly permeate your heart. The heart is not something that is easily succumbed to immediate effects and pressures. It is something that is affected by long-term practice. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. The nature of the heart, the nature of the soul of a mu'min, not a mu'min. The nature of the heart and soul of a human being is that it always wants freedom from restriction, and it wants to be what we say in Gujarati, Bap. It wants to be the head, the king, independent, free. It doesn't want anyone over it. It doesn't want anyone telling it what to do. This is the nature of the soul. Quran says, Kalla innal insan la yatgha an ra'ahu istaghna. Indeed, man becomes rebellious when he considers himself without need. So man's nature is to be free of restrictions and boundaries. He doesn't like anyone telling him what to do. He wants to live like a king. Islam says no. King is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. King is Amirul Mu'mineen. King is Imam Hassan alayhi salam. These are your lords. You have to like come under them. They will tell you what to do. So Sabr al-Ta'a requires a lot of humility. It requires the person to say, you know what, maybe I don't know. I don't know exactly what's good for me, but other people know. I can listen to them. So Sabr al-Ta'a is very difficult for someone who regards himself as a lord and a king and a leader. That is not going to work well with Islamic spirituality. So that was the second type of sabr. Sabr al-Ta'a. Now, let me quote to you a famous story from Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi. He says, you know what, in this Sabr al-Ta'a, you have to always remember that you are never safe. You never should be relaxed or laid back about these things. Some people, they say, this is a small sin. Does Allah really care about this? I'm staggered how they can say that. Like, it's not your call to say, is Allah bothered about this? Allah will tell you if He's bothered about it. If there's a law that He's given you, then He's bothered about it, basically. So, Rumi, he narrates about this person. It was a dark night. This person was walking home. It was winter. It was very cold. He's coming home at night. And as he's walking, there's no light as such for him to find his way. He needs some assistance. So he sees a stick in the road. He picks up the stick. He uses the stick to make his way, to support himself, to clear the area and to reach home. He gets home. He goes inside his home. He puts on the lanterns. He lights the fire. The warmth of the home increases. The home becomes warm. He puts the stick on the side. The stick is actually not a stick. It's a snake. The snake in winter became sort of frozen and almost dead. But it wasn't dead. It was alive. But it became almost like a dead stick, frozen, hard. He thought it was a stick. He came home, he put it on the side. Now the warmth of the home is warming up that snake. Okay? And that snake is slowly becoming unfrozen and coming back to life. And slowly but surely the man is sitting in his seat, very comfortable, getting warm, enjoying his time at home, and slowly but surely that snake is becoming unfrozen, and then it begins to move. And as it moves, it creeps up on the man and it bites him, poisons him and kills him. Rumi says, Nafs chun ajdahe ast, ki murde ast. Nafs is like a snake. It never dies. Nafs chun ajdahe ast, ki murde ast, az ghame bi alati afsurde ast. From time to time, your nafs, because of not having an opportunity to attack you, it may retreat a bit. It may become a little bit disappointed. But it doesn't die. Never think that you're safe, that I've achieved something. No. Always you should be on edge. You should be very careful of yourself, your family, your children, your spouses. Be very careful. Sabaru ayyaman kasira, a'aqabathum rahatan tawila. The muttaqeen are those people, they have sabr for a short time. They know that afterwards there's a long term of bliss and luxury and comfort. Salawat. And the third is sabr alal musiba. Having sabr upon calamity, difficulty, taklif. This is also very important. What do we mean by this? What we mean is that we don't complain. We don't say things like, I have been given an illness. No one before me has been given such an illness. We shouldn't say things like that. This is a calamity which no one has had before. Or we say things like, why did Allah have to choose me for this calamity? Couldn't He have chosen someone else? These are ridiculous statements. Shouldn't be saying things like this. It's not an issue to express your pain to someone who can do something about it. For example, imagine you go to the doctor, he says, what's wrong? And you say, I can't say because we heard in a lecture not to complain. When someone can help you and do something about it, of course you express your pain. You tell them. But people who can't do things about it, usually mu'min, should remain silent on these things. Hadith from Imam Ja'far Sadiq alayhi salam. If someone has a problem and accepts it and shows gratitude to Allah for it, then it is like the worship of 60 years. Someone asked him, what does it mean to accept it? Imam says, he remains patient on it and does not disclose this to people, and when he wakes up the next day, he praises Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In another hadith, Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhi salam says, someone asked him, what is beautiful patience? He said, it is patience in which there is no complaint to people. So it's very, very important that you understand this. We have a famous story from the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. There was a lady at the time of the Holy Prophet. We have different versions of what her name was. Rumaysa, Salim or Sulaim. These are the different names that we have for her. She narrates one story from her life. What happened was, she was married, her husband was called Abu Talha, father of Talha. And they had a son. And their son had developed an illness. This illness was going along. And day by day, the illness was getting worse. Day by day, the illness was getting worse. Salawat please ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Now what happened was, as usual, the routine in their family was that she would be at home with the ill son. The husband, Abu Talha, would go to work and come home after his work finished, and she would usually prepare the food and they would eat together. So it so happened one day, he left the house. He went to work. She was home. On that day, the son died. Now what happened was, she took the son's body and she placed it in another room. When the husband came back from his day, usually what happens is, when we have some sorrow and calamity, when we see other people that we know well, we become emotional. We start crying and this kind of thing when we see them. But she was a very special lady. She says, I put our son's body in another room where it would not be seen. And I prepared the food as normal. And when my husband came home, he started eating with me and he asked, how is our child? And I replied, he is in the best of conditions. She was a very great mu'minah. And then she went on and she said, since the time he became ill, he has not been in such a great condition. Then after a while, she said, I said to my husband, you know what? I'm very surprised about our neighbors. He said, why? Tell me what happened. She said, a little while ago, I gave them something as a loan. And today I needed it, so I went to take it back. And the neighbor started to complain and started to shout and started to say all these kinds of things. Husband said, this is very strange. Why should they complain? You gave them something as a loan. You asked for it back. Why are they complaining? This is very bad. She said, look in that room. there is your son. He was amanat from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah gave him to us, and today Allah has taken him back. This is sabr alal musibah, to be dignified in times of distress. When the husband saw that the mother is so patient, he praised Allah. And then they went to the Holy Prophet the next day, who prayed for them. And in future they were given more children. The Rawi says that once he saw this couple, they had 7 children, mashallah. And all of these children were reciting Quran in the mosque. And Hazrat Jabir quotes the Holy Prophet, who says regarding that same woman, I saw in a dream that this lady is now in heaven. So you see the ajr of sabr, and when a person has a personality of sabr and is able to withstand these things. Inshallah, we pray to Allah for tawfiq. Azadaran of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, perhaps one of the most ba-sabr people that we know in history, is the personality that we are going to commemorate today. It is his day of shahadat. Salams on you, O Imam Zainul Abidin. What sabr did you have, Mawla? They say that after Ashura, the next day being the 11th of Muharram, the Asiran of Karbala, Bibi Zainab, Janabi Kulsum, Imam Zainul Abidin, they are taken through the Qatlagah, the battlefield. They come across the different bodies of the Shuhada. When Zainab alayha salam sees the body of Hussein, they say that she falls down there and she begins to weep at the body of Abu Abdullah. Some people have said that she would have looked towards Medina and perhaps she saluted her mother, saying, Ya Zahra, this is your beloved Hussein here, murammalun bid-dima, covered in his own blood, maslubul amama, he has had his head cut off from his body. They were taken away. They were asked to mount the animals. When Zainab alayha salam was mounting the animal, they say, Nadarat yaminan wa nadarat shimala, that Zainab looked to the left, looked to the right, and then she looked towards Furat, and she says, Aina anta ya akhi ya Abul Fadl, where are you, O brother, O Abul Fadl al-Abbas? They were taken from Karbala into Kufa. In Kufa, they say that as they were being paraded, it was like a big celebration, and a jashan was held in Kufa when the Asirs of Imam Hussain alayhi salam were taken through Kufa. They say that at one point, Janabi Sakina, she requested a lady who was standing nearby. She says, if you can you give me some water? The lady is known famously as Habiba. Habiba looks at Sakina and she says, here, my daughter, here's some water. Can you please pray for me? One of the other Asirs asked Habiba, why do you ask this girl to pray for you? Habiba says, I have heard from Rasulullah that the du'as of a yatim and an Asir are never rejected. And then she says to Janabi Sakina, she says, can you also pray that I'm given the ability and the chance to go to Medina? Here Zainab Kubra cannot remain silent. She says, tell me, who do you know in Medina? She says, I know the household of Bani Hashim. Janabi Zainab says, who do you know in Bani Hashim? She says, I know the daughter of my master, her name is Zainab, and I know the son who is still surviving, he is Hussein. She says, oh Habiba, you did not recognize us. Look carefully, I am Zainab. She says, you are Zainab, then where is Hussein? She says, look at the spear, you will see Hussein. Ajrukum ala Allah. They were kept in Kufa. But this is not the end of the story. They were kept in Kufa, but yet the bodies of Abu Abdullah and Abul Fadl and Janabi Ali Akbar and Hazrat Qasim, they are all still on the Qatlagah of Karbala. Who is going to bury them? By the power of a mu'jiza, what they say is Imam Zainul Abidin, who was supposed to be in the jail shackled in Kufa, he appears in Karbala. When he appears in Karbala, he sees the menfolk of Bani Asad. They are all talking to one another. When he approaches them, he says, "What are you talking about?" They say, "Oh Mawla, we are discussing how we are going to bury all of these bodies in Karbala." He says, "What is the difficulty?" He says, "Mawla, we want to bury them. We don't know whose body is whose, because the heads have been severed and they've been taken away." Mawla says, "I will help you. Listen to my instructions. I will tell you how to bury them." Imam Zain al-Abidin says, "I want you to first of all make 3 independent graves, 3 individual graves." They dig the 3 graves. They say, "Now what, Mawla?" He says, "In the first grave, I want you to put all of the shuhada, all of the ashab, all of the bodies that you find, put them in this one grave. That is known as Ganje Shuhada. In this second grave, I will bury myself." They say, "Mawla, who will you bury?" He says, "I'm going to bury my father, I'm going to bury my brother, and I'm going to bury my other baby brother, Aliyun al-Asghar." And then they said, "Then Mawla, what about the third grave?" He said, "That is a very special grave. That is for Habib ibn Mazahir. He was very dear to my father. He was beloved to my father. He should be buried separately as an honor for Habib." Then they say, when Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam comes to the body of Abu Abdullah, they say that he kept on bending down and picking things up. He was bending down and picking things up. They said, "Mawla, what are you doing? What are you picking up from the floor?" He says, "Look over here. Here is the finger of my father. Someone wanted the ring from the hand of Hussein. He couldn't pull it off. So what he did was he took out a knife and he cut off the whole finger so that he could take the ring. These are the different parts of the body of my father." He picks them all up. He places them in the grave. He buries Imam Hussein alayhi salam there. And then Mawla, Imam Zainul Abidin, begins to walk towards Furat. They say, "Mawla, now what? Where are you going?" He says, "There is one more lash near Furat. I have to attend to that as well." When he goes there, he says, "When I tried to pick up this body, I picked it from the right side, the left side fell down. When I picked it from the left side, the right side fell down." Then he looked at the sky and says, "Ya Qamar Bani Hashim, Ya Abul Fadl al-Abbas." Matam Hussein.